So thank you so much, Dries, for joining us today. I think I'm just feeling so overwhelmed to see so many people from across the country joining us today. And it's really special to have you as part of this program. I'm just going to do a quick welcome to all of you and then hand it over, start the fireside chat with you. So welcome everyone to DIA Refresh 2022. Like we were just talking a little while back, this is the first camp that we are having after the Chennai camp in 2019. And also this is the very first camp I think that we're trying to do, which is India-wide, right? We always had our camps in different cities. And this is also probably the very first hybrid camp that we're doing. The intention of this camp is to energize this large Drupal community in India. And thank you so much, everybody, for taking time out from your workday and attending this launch. And we are very extremely excited and privileged and fortunate to have Dries, the founder and project lead Drupal and co-founder CTO of Acquia, to join us today for this fireside chat. Dries needs no introductions in this forum, so it's just truly inspirational for us to have him here. His journey from Antwerp in Belgium, where he started this small content framework to help students to communicate, to today running one of the largest open source projects, Drupal and Acquia, is truly inspirational. And I think I'm very fortunate, Dries, to have known you personally because of my tenure on the board of the Drupal Association. And one of the most admirable qualities of Dries as a leader has been his very gentle personality and also his approachable nature. I've always admired the way he used to walk across in the Drupal conferences, trying to get to know people. And in today's fireside chat, we're just not going to talk Drupal, but we're also going to hear and understand Dries as the person. Thank you, Dries, once again for joining us today. We really look forward to this conversation. I'd also like to welcome Rahul, co-founder Srijan, one of the largest Drupal shops in India, who will also be co-facilitating this conversation with Dries. Thank you, Rahul.
Thank you for the kind words, Shyamala. Very nice. Excited to be here, truly. Been to India a few times, as you know, and these are some of my best memories and experiences ever, to be honest. So I have the Indian Drupal community, or India in general, have a special place in my heart. So I'm very, very excited to be here today.
So I think many of us actually look back to the Drupal conference that we had in India and looked at all our selfies that we had with you, Dries. And maybe after this fireside chat, we'll do some, screenshots on Zoom or something.
Yeah, Zoom fees.
Yeah, Zoom fees.
Yeah, especially with the contributors and the special call out names that we have, which Deepan will be doing as we go along.
Sure.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Are you all set, Dries, for the questions that we're going to ask you?
I'm excited for them. Yeah, you can ask me anything. So let's see where this goes.
Yeah. So we're going to start with a little bit about you as a person, Dries. And so as a young boy in college, we always read about your college in computer science and how you figured this community platform, which you open sourced then. What were your ambitions when you started college? And did you actually live the dreams that you started with?
When I started college, I studied computer science, as you said, and I don't think I had a huge ambition at the time other than that I was passionate about computer science. Like I've been programming as a teenager, and I was very passionate about computers and excited about the internet. And this was in like 1996, so in the early days of the web, I guess. And I just felt attracted to the web and computer science, but I didn't really know what to aim for, other than that I wanted to be in this industry. I will say I always wanted to have my own company. My dad is pretty entrepreneurial, and I always admired that about my dad too. And I felt like that would maybe something that I would wanted to do, to run my own company. And that was about it, Shyamala. Like I didn't have any other big kind of master plan for my life at the time, other than trying to pass college and then figure out what's next afterwards.
Is your dad proud of you with what you've achieved and how big Acquia is?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. We talk about it from time to time. I'm not sure they fully understand either. Like I'll tell them about like, yeah, there's this community and there's thousands of people in this community. And I don't think they truly understand it, or at least not until recently, because a couple years ago we had DrupalCon Amsterdam, and actually invited them to come visit DrupalCon Amsterdam. And it was actually the first time in like, what, 20 years or something that they attended a Drupal event. And I think they finally kind of understood a little bit more about what I was doing and the Drupal community and the size and the scale of it. And so I do think that was a special moment for them. So that was for me too, by the way.
Yeah, I have a little joke to share here, Shyamala, if I may.
Sure,
you
sure.
know, a lot of us when at least I started my company right at the beginning, for the first few years, all the relatives would end up calling me, "Can you fix my computer?" Have you faced that?
Yeah. Well, I do technical support in my family. I'm the technical support person for smartphones, tablets, computers, you name it.
Yeah, there you go. So, Dries, I think you know that, in India, we all come from very large families. Many of us actually stay in houses that have more than 10, 15 people together. We call them as joint families. Even in the same city, we probably have our aunts, uncles, nieces, cousins, and we are really big when it comes to family. And I know that you also come from a very large family. And because I remember very, very vividly you mentioning in the board dinners that we have about your grandmom and how you used to post on Facebook so she'd know where you are and she would feel safe. Would you like to share us a little bit about your family and like who in your family inspired you? And I think that part you already kind of answered, but
yeah, I can talk a little bit more about that for sure. Yeah, like so I was born in Antwerp in Belgium, which and my entire family lives, to be honest, like within 30 kilometers from each other. So maybe that's a little bit like in India, I don't know. But everybody, we don't necessarily live in the same house, so to speak, but we all kind of live very close to each other. So I'm pretty close to my family and always have been. And I actually moved to the United States, as you know, or may know. My main residence is in Boston, and that was definitely like a shock to the system, if you will. Like, whoa, Dries is moving far away from the rest of the family. I will say my family has been very influential to me. Both of my grandfathers actually were influential. Like one of them was a writer and a publisher, and I actually never met him because he passed away just before I was born. But I still believe he was really influential on me because I do enjoy reading and writing. You may have read some of my blog posts. I really, truly enjoy writing, just like my grandfather did, I think. My other grandfather was a scientist and an inventor and a builder. Very, very cool person, and he was very important in my life. He was very creative. He loved building things. He was involved with things like space programs and space missions, and I mean, crazy, interesting things. And I definitely picked up some of that. I mean, I went and became a scientist myself, if you will, computer scientist. I did a PhD in computer science. So I have an academic background, just like he did. And then, as I mentioned, my dad was very influential as well. Like he's a medical doctor, very entrepreneurial and very innovative. He bought a computer when I was 6 years old or something, and that got me into computer science. And he encouraged me to get into computer science as well. And obviously, my mom, I think everybody's mom is very influential, but my mom certainly was very influential on me too. I think of a lot of my interpersonal skills from my mom. She's very caring, sweet, kind person. I'd like to believe I am caring and kind, at least for the most part. And she was really the main caretaker for me. And so obviously, I have a lot of her in me as well.
Thanks for sharing that, Dries. Follow up, there's a lot of conversation around self-made people and so on and so forth, I always believe that nobody is ever self-made. My father told me that once. We always end up standing on other people's, other family members' shoulders to look farther and build upon what they achieved. That's exactly what you just shared, right? Being scientists and being writers, and then sort of, helping you perhaps. Would you agree with
Yeah, I
with
would.
that?
Yeah, I'm very, very lucky and privileged that I came from a good family, where people cared for each other and helped each other, and I could attend college and go to university and learn all these things, right? So yeah, I definitely agree with you, Rahul. And I recognize that that is a privilege that I have that maybe not everybody in the world has, not everybody in the world has that family support that I had.
The emotional support that you get by knowing that there's a whole big family that stands by you. Very, very true. And thank you so much for so candidly sharing all this with us. And you have two boys, am I right, Dries?
That's right. Two boys, 12 and 14 years old. They're great boys. The oldest one loves tennis, for example. It's kind of like he loves learning and studying too. He does really good at school. And the youngest boy, I think like many sort of younger boys or second kids, that he has like so much energy and is a little bit more of a rebel, if you will. And loves basketball. He's very passionate about playing basketball. Yeah, they're two great kids. I love them. Yeah.
Do you play with them?
Go ahead.
I do. Yeah, I love
Tennis,
myself.
basketball?
I actually both of so tennis is my favorite sport that I play. I've been playing tennis for, I don't even know, 30 years or something. And so I do enjoy playing tennis with them. And I actually used to play basketball as a kid, because people that have met me in person will probably remember I'm quite tall. So that gives me an advantage to play basketball. So I do enjoy playing basketball.
If you're tall, they send you to basketball.
You're right, exactly. So, and I used to play some basketball. I was never really good at it, to be honest, but I do enjoy it. So
do they also have like similar aspirations? Do they also want to take computer science and figure it out, or do you see any interests in them that really align with what you're doing? And
yeah.
how do you try to stay connected with them, especially with you traveling between Europe and US, right?
Yeah. Funny enough, I don't really try and push them to do anything with computer science. Like, in fact, I'm probably more strict as a parent around computer science related things. Like, for example, I give them limited device time versus unlimited device time. But my oldest son is definitely interested in computer science. He has dabbled a little bit with HTML, which is kind of funny because it follows STEM IT. I'm not sure if that's familiar to you, but he does extra science classes in school. And one of the classes was HTML, and usually has like a really good grades, but for his HTML class, I think he had a 6 out of 10 or something. And I'm like, what? Of all the things, that's the one that you have a bad score on, HTML. So it's kind of funny.
We have another potential candidate for our Drupal
training
campus ambassador. Yes.
Yeah. Maybe one day they would like to. They would like to do that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they're interested, but I'm not trying to push them to write software. I just want them to discover what they like for themselves, And if they, I'd be happy with them doing anything really. So we'll see what happens. I do stay in touch with them during my travels. I mean, thanks to modern technology, like, Zoom and FaceTime and those kinds of technologies, I talk to them, video conferencing, that kind of stuff. So, and then we text message too, and all these things, I guess, not unlike what a lot of you do with your family members, right?
Actually, I recently, over the COVID, I'm not a big fan of watching TV or movie shows or things like that. I've been brought up in a school which said that, watching even a Sunday movie is wrong. And there's been just a lot of family time with COVID, with both my kids at home. They're actually young adults, and I recently started binge watching a lot of serials because I didn't want to go and tell them don't do it, right? Instead of that, I started doing it myself so I could understand how they feel. So, did you pick anything like that from your kids, which you feel really good about, and learn from your boys?
I mean, I learn a lot from them. I don't know, like I feel like sometimes on certain topics they kind of know more than I do because I forget so much of it. Like, I mean, I was having a fascinating conversation with my oldest son about space and planets and, you know, those kinds of things. It's really fun, actually. They're getting to an age, 12 and 14, where you can actually learn a lot from them and have meaningful conversations with them. And like, for example, we watched Star Wars together a while back and loved it. Yeah, it was really fun to watch together. And now they know more about Star Wars than I do, you know, like it's like they've somehow managed to remember every single name and every relationship between every character. And like, I can't even keep up with it anymore. So it's interesting when they become better at things than you are, you know, and then you learn from them. So
hopefully, Dries, very soon we'll have this really big DrupalCon in India, and we'll invite you, not just you, but your entire family to visit us. And we can get to
awesome.
your voice. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
The next question is about your hobbies. I know photography is your hobby. Anything else that is your passion and hobby? And how do you like, do you want to just share some tips with all the youngsters here? Because there is a lot of burnout because of this COVID. So how do you kind of balance all this work that you do with Acquia, Drupal, and everything else, and still, you know, use your hobbies maybe to, you know, keep yourself energized?
I have a lot of hobbies, I have a lot of interests, to be honest. Like I love photography, as you mentioned. I love tennis, as I mentioned. I love travel, you know. I love exploring the world, meeting people, learning about new cultures. It's one of the reasons why I kind of fell in love with India, you know, when I visited India. I think I've been 3 or 4 times now. Just the differences in food and culture and people. It's just fascinating and a lot of fun for me. I love reading. I love writing. I don't know. I have a lot of different hobbies. I think the topic of burnout is a big topic, and a long conversation. But for me, maybe I can share one lesson learned or one anecdote from my personal life. I was on the edge of burnout once, I would say. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes you have to, I think humans sometimes have to experience the pain first before they can learn the lesson. And so I feel like I had to get to that point before I learned the lesson. And I think one of the biggest learnings is just learning to prioritize your work and just focusing on the thing that is most important and accepting that you can do everything. So in my career, you know, I've gone from being a student to obviously helping to manage a very large open source project to, you know, helping to run a very large technology company as well. Acquia's R&D team, which I'm responsible for, is like around 500 people now, as an example, and Acquia in general is 1,500 people. And I think one of the things that is challenging is that in school, as at a young age, you have to do all your homework. You know, I don't know if it's the same in India, but like you get homework and you have to do it all. And if you don't do it all, you're in trouble. And I think that's probably, yeah, and that's probably good in high school and in school. But once you get into the workforce, sometimes it's impossible. You know, there's so many things you could do or should do, but it's not physically possible to do it all. And so you have to almost unlearn what you learned in high school and in the early years, and switch to a model where you ruthlessly prioritize and you say, I can have the biggest impact by doing these 5 things. And I'm going to do those, and I'm not going to do these other 100 things or 5 things, whatever. And that's very uncomfortable, I think, for people at first. Like, it's uncomfortable to not do all the things you have to do. And for me, that was a learning, Shyamala. Like, now I feel very comfortable just focusing on the most important things and dropping the things that I can get to. It doesn't give me anxiety anymore like it used to.
Two stories,
Um,
sorry,
Sorry,
Shyamala.
just go ahead.
Two things that come to my mind from that conversation, Dries, is I don't know if you've seen the videos of the big rocks and the small rocks. You put the big rocks in the glass bottle first, and then the smaller rocks, and they get smaller and smaller. Then you pour sand, which are the small tasks, and you get a whole lot done. In general, I think human beings avoid doing the hardest things first. You leave them for the last, and you never get by doing anything, actually. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned ups and downs, very, very important. Once again, there's a lot of people here. And so, just from a mental health perspective, a thing that comes to my mind is this book called Road Less Traveled by one of the leading psychiatrists in the US, Scott M. Peck. He talks about the healthiness of depression. So when you hit the bottom, you actually come out of it. There's only road is going up, really. And that actually makes you evolve and make a better person out of you. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I think that's true. Like, sometimes you have to hit the bottom to come out stronger and better. Like, over the years, my ability to deal with stress has definitely changed. I'm much more resistant to stress than I used to be, for example. But that doesn't mean that was hard to learn. It didn't come automatically. Like, you have to go through some pain just to come out stronger. And it's kind of sad. I wish I was smarter so I didn't have to go through the pain sometimes. But it's the same thing with simple things. Like, you probably have to fall with your skateboards a few times to learn that maybe you should try not to fall. But until you fall, you may not kind of feel the need to learn it or to be more careful. And it's the same thing with many things.
So, Dries, do you have like a set routine every day? Like, how do you manage all this? Just give us like a little bit peek into this. How do you manage all the stress?
I do have a more or less set routine. Well, I don't know if it's a set routine, but like, my days are usually 10 hours of work. Unfortunately, it's probably not a good example. But I do work long days, and they're usually around 15 different meetings that I have. So I have a lot of meetings with different teams, with different programs, both with people in the Drupal community around core development as well, obviously at Acquia. And then before and after, I do kind of my other work, I call it, which is also not a great example. But like email and making presentations happens usually before and after. So I do work a lot, but I do enjoy working, first of all. But I do have a couple of things. Like, I do block off, for example, between 6 and 8:30 p.m. To spend time with my family, and we eat a meal together, and I help my kids with homework, and I refuse any meeting, really. There's the occasional exception, but for the most part, I just consider that my most important time. And other than that, I'm flexible. So it's often that I have to get back on the phone after 8:30 p.m. at night, because just time zones. I'm sure many of you have to work across time zones too. Just kind of part of an international job, I guess. So I do these blocks. We have a lot of meetings. And then on the weekends, I really try to disconnect from work. And that was also hard in the beginning of my career, but I've gotten a little bit better about it, where I feel okay, like leaving my, not looking at my cell phone for like 4 or 5 hours on a Saturday. It's quite normal now for me, which, so I kind of, work hard, I guess, during the week, protect my family time, and then on the weekends, try to recharge the batteries, so to speak.
Do you have a full my time, which is not, of course, not even the family? Do you do that? Do you meditate? Do you do any of that?
I don't know. I don't do, I don't meditate. I don't meditate in the classic way, I would say. But like sometimes writing is very helpful for me.
Yes.
And it has an element of meditation.
Yeah.
But also photography. I don't know. That sounds funny, maybe.
No,
but
not
like
at all.
when I'm
Not at
walking
all,
around
actually.
with my
Yeah.
camera, kind of looking at the world, trying to make pictures, there's an element of just kind of meditation in that, you know. It makes me appreciate the details of what I'm seeing through my lens, my camera lens, you know, like it makes me happy to see something interesting, and as small as it maybe just a flower somewhere or an interesting detail, like it just a good way for me to
Slow down, I guess.
Yeah,
the
slow
feeling
down.
I get.
Yes.
Just slow down. Right? Yeah.
We already can see a lot of +1 trees. There's a lot of Drupal community here who can really relate to your photography. And as related to your travel, you should plan one trip to India. We'll make sure you have enough to photograph and enjoy. Yeah.
Yes, I'd love to come back to India. Just been hard with COVID.
Right.
I haven't traveled that much because of COVID, you know.
So Dries, I'm now going to get a little bit into your Drupal and your professional side. So you chose to make Drupal open source 2001 as you're finishing college, right? And then in 2007, you started Acquia. And been closely following all the different things that you do. And can you tell us a little bit about how and why you decided to build Acquia and how that actually maybe helped to further, you know, energize the open source product Drupal?
Yeah. So the first, so I started Drupal when I was still a student, and for 7 years I worked on Drupal as a hobby project. It's what I would do in the evenings and on the weekends. But after 7 years, we started to have a good size community. Like we would do events like a DrupalCon, and 300 people would show up. Like of course, compared to today, I think now we have 3,000 or 4,000 people show up. But at the time, there was like 300 or so people that would show up. And I really felt like we were onto something, you know. And we also started to see larger organizations adopt Drupal. And I remember they would email me sometimes and they would ask like, hey, you know, would Drupal work for us? And like, I remember MTV, I think you all know MTV, MTV.com, they wanted to switch to Drupal. And this is just one example, by the way, but it's a real example. And they switched to Drupal, I think in 2005 or 2006, maybe 2007. I think 2006 or 2007. And their site crashed, you know, and they emailed me, and I would spend my nights free of charge. Like I wouldn't ask money to help them fix their Drupal site so that it would scale to the traffic that MTV had. Because I felt so passionate about making end users of Drupal successful with Drupal. You know, I felt like if MTV fails with Drupal, that would be bad for Drupal, you know, would damage our brand and our reputation. But if MTV succeeds with Drupal, that would be great, and more organizations would switch to Drupal. And so it made me realize that for Drupal to get to the next level, it really needed a company focused on these larger organizations and making them successful with Drupal. Because why would they come to me, you know, as an individual versus go to an organization? And that's when the idea for Acquia was born. And the original vision was to be to Drupal what Red Hat was to Linux. If you look at the history of Linux, you know, Linux was also a hobby project until a commercial ecosystem around Linux was born. And specifically, some larger companies like Red Hat and SUSE and a couple of others that really pushed Linux into the enterprise, you know, larger organizations. And it gave Linux a lot of credibility, and kind of the rest is history. Anyway, and so learning from Linux, because I witnessed that I kind of followed what happened with Linux. I was an early user of Linux, and a member of the Linux open source community before Drupal. That was kind of a role model for me, and it gave me a vision of what I think needed to happen with Drupal. And so that was why Acquia was created. And if you look at the history of Acquia, our original product was to provide commercial support for Drupal. That was it, you know. Of course, today we do, other things. We do a lot more, but that support element is still there. We still do that as well. So.
Yeah. So the other part of the question is, how did your bringing Acquia strengthen the open source, or your part to strengthen the open source solution itself? Right. You spoke about how.
I think. Well, I think in many different ways. First of all, we hired full-time contributors to Drupal, right? Like from day one, we said we're going to hire some people, and their job is to contribute full-time to Drupal. Like Gabor, which many of you may know, I think was hire number 1 or 2 at Acquia. And from day one, his mission, his job was to contribute to Drupal full-time. And that's what he's been doing at Acquia. He's still at Acquia after 15 years, and it's still what he does every day. Of course, today we have probably 20 to 30 people that contribute to Drupal full-time, not just Gabor. And I think that has helped Drupal tremendously. But secondly, I think Acquia has helped a lot of other Drupal companies, probably some of the ones that you work for, be successful with Drupal as well. And sometimes in indirect ways. For example, you may remember that in 2009, whitehouse.gov switched to Drupal. I don't know if you remember, but that was a huge credibility for Drupal. And it was thanks to Acquia and some of Acquia's partners. And pretty much, and that would not have happened without Acquia.
Absolutely.
Right?
Very much.
But
we write on your marketing part that Acquia has too.
And that's great, right? Because every agency in the world would often say to their customers, well, whitehouse.gov uses Drupal, so therefore, maybe you shouldn't be as worried about the security of Drupal, or maybe you shouldn't be as worried about the scalability of Drupal. And so some of the successes that Acquia helped achieve become marketing tools for others to also win deals and convince others of using Drupal. And frankly, that's not a one-way thing. Acquia also leverages other big wins from other companies to convince our customers of using Drupal. So it's how we help each other, right? But I do think Acquia helped us reach a different set of end users that would not have adopted Drupal if it wasn't for a company like Acquia that provided them essential things that they needed to feel good about going with Drupal. So I think we help directly by contributing to Drupal. We invest in people that contribute, but we also give money to the Drupal Association and initiatives. And then secondly, our marketing and some of our customer wins, I think, also help others in the project.
Very nice. So the next one is about COVID, Dries. COVID has actually helped us reimagine a lot of things personally and professionally, like even at our organization, Unimity. There are many boundaries that we've broken because of COVID, and things have changed. We've accelerated in certain directions which we would never have thought of. So what would you think would be those really accelerated influences COVID has had on Drupal and Acquia?
Yeah, I think from a market point of view, maybe I'll start there. COVID has accelerated digital transformation, right? Like a lot of, we saw at Acquia, a set of companies that maybe weren't doing e-commerce that all of a sudden wanted to do e-commerce by tomorrow, as an example. And so we definitely see an acceleration of digital transformation, to put it that way, which is beneficial for Drupal in general. But then internally, I think many organizations, Acquia included, have just gotten a lot more comfortable with remote employees. Now, mind you, we always had a lot of remote employees. Like before COVID, I think at least a third of our workforce was remote. So we had offices. I think we had 14 offices, I think, around the world. But despite that, a lot of people just worked from home or from anywhere, not in an office. And we were always very comfortable with that. Partially, I think, because we were born out of open source, like that's just how we work in open source, as you know. But I think COVID made us even more comfortable with it. And we shut down some offices, to be honest, because people didn't use them anymore. And we asked them, like, do you want to come back to an office? And they said, actually, no, we're happy being remote now. And so I think we're an even more remote company than before. So, yeah.
And do you foresee doing a lot more Drupal cons to bring them all together? Because it's nice working remotely, but sometimes it's good to have fun in person, right? Fun's always more, I mean, it's nice to take a selfie here, but there's nothing like standing next to Dries and taking a selfie. So do you also foresee a lot more?
Yeah, I think it's important to bring people together in person, like especially when you're remote, you need to invest a little bit more in bringing people together in person, for sure. I do believe that. And I think we're about to be able to, it feels like, at least here where I am, the worst of COVID might be behind us, knock on wood, I'm not sure, but things are slowly starting to open up here in a way that might enable some travel and getting together in person.
My last question, and I'm going to hand it over to Rahul after this. Dries, if there was one decision that you've made that in the last few years with Drupal and Acquia that you wanted to undo, which one would that be?
A decision that I would want to undo. It's a great question. There's hundreds of mistakes that I've made. I'm just trying to figure out which one.
While you think funny that a lot of people are sharing their production site crash stories on the chat window as they learn Drupal.
Funny. I think like one of the decisions I wish so we used to have a product at Acquia called Drupal Gardens. I'm not sure if you remember it, but it was like WordPress.com for Drupal. So it's a SaaS version of Drupal. And we launched it, we built it, of course, and then we launched it. And it was actually going fairly well. I think within a year and a half, we had over 100,000 or maybe 150,000 sites on Drupal Gardens. So I think a lot of people would look at that and say, oh, it's not bad, 150,000 sites in a year and a half or something. But if we looked at the financials, it was only generating maybe $500,000 in revenue, which isn't bad, but as a percentage of Acquia's total revenue, it was small. Plus, we saw a lot of enterprise users ask for a lot of custom features. And it was just hard to keep up with all of the requests from our customers. Like, well, I need this module, I need that module. And a lot of them were, I need this custom module, like that integrates with my particular backend system that nobody else in the world has. And so it's like, well, we don't really want to add that to our SaaS platform because that's really not how it was, meant to be designed. And so we ended up shutting that down. And I think that was actually the right decision in many ways, but I do regret it too, because I think it was an incredible service to the Drupal community in a way, like everybody could just create a Drupal site and try it out as well. And I wish we didn't do that. I wish I would have kept investing in Drupal Gardens. I think it could have been pretty amazing. If you think about it, fast forward 6 years or something, could have had 1 million sites or 2 million sites, and it would have made maybe Drupal a little bit more accessible to many more people. So I think it was the right business decision from a financial point of view, but I think it's a miss now in terms of how do we help drive adoption of Drupal.
Like we could have been, in numbers, we could have been like WordPress, right? If we had Drupal Garden.
Possibly.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
But we were a much smaller company too, and it was hard to find resources to maintain and build it too. So there was also like, it's not like we had unlimited money or something. We had to make some tough choices. So
sure.
Maybe Dries, that's a good hook into my set of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Acquia is increasingly becoming more and more a product company. So how does the Drupal story fit into the future of Acquia as you see it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I think we've always been a product company, except for the first year when we were a support company. But other than that, I think of Acquia as a product company. I mean, Drupal is at the core of everything that we do. So the evolution of Acquia, you can think of it in 3 phases. Phase 1 was the commercial support company. And that took about 1 year. After 1 year, we entered into phase 2. And Amazon at the time had just launched AWS. And we were one of the first companies to try and deliver Drupal in the cloud on AWS. And that was very successful for us. Like it caused Acquia to grow really, really fast with the Acquia cloud. It actually led to Amazon investing in Acquia. And even today, we're one of few companies on their advisory board, for example. And it's our core business today. I mean, the majority of our revenue is that, and Drupal is at the core of it. So, and then more recently, let's say 6 years ago, we entered phase 3. And that's an evolution of thinking about Acquia as a company that delivers Drupal in the cloud to a company that's focused more on DXP or digital experience platforms with Drupal at the core. But we've added technologies around our core offering to help marketers with email marketing. We have a CDP or a customer data platform and some other tools. And that's an evolution of the market because the way we think about this is we help our customers be digital winners, let's say. And if you want to be a digital business, what do you need to win? Well, you need a website for sure. Maybe you need 10 websites or 100 websites. But today, that's not enough, right? Most companies that do business online also need email marketing, or they need personalization. They may need e-commerce. And so we think of what we do as providing all the tools that our customers need to be strong digital businesses.
Sure.
And that's kind of how we've evolved. And I will make one more point. Sorry, Rahul. It's like each of these phases are on top of each other, right? So support is still important to us. Drupal is still our most important thing. And some of these other tools, the XP tools, are in addition to what we do. But I will say the majority of our revenue comes from Drupal-related products and services, and we continue to invest and grow our investment in Drupal year over year.
I mean, you could build a lot of these DXP platforms, and you do partnerships and white labeling some of the services. So do you ever see a movement sort of away from Drupal on the Acquia journey in a phase 4 perhaps, or will Drupal always remain at the core? No? Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't think we'll ever move away from Drupal, but I don't even see how that's possible, because everything we do is centered around Drupal.
Without content, there's nothing, Rahul. That's the story.
That's right.
Yeah, sure.
Content's the king. Yeah.
Yeah. Content is at the center of every digital experience.
Yes, very true.
But what's new in today's world is that you also often want a data element. You know, like you want to match the right content to the right user at the right time on the right channel. And to do that, you need to know a little bit about your visitors. And that's where we have a CDP. That's why we have personalization. And that's important if you want to drive business on your site. If you want to convert visitors to, let's say, paying customers, or if you want to drive them to some other kind of conversion, maybe it's downloading a book or something, right? You want to get really smart about it. And that's a very logical extension. And we do that because, frankly, our customers ask for that. You know, often they come to us and they say, hey, I want a website. Or I have a Drupal site already. I just want it to be more scalable or more secure or faster. Help me. Then we make them successful. And then the next question they come back is like, great, you help me manage my Drupal sites. But now, can you help me make money with my Drupal sites? Right? And so the conversation often starts with an IT-centric conversation about managing sites, and then shifts to a business conversation like, thanks for helping me manage and secure and optimize my Drupal sites. Now help me drive more business through my Drupal sites. And that's where sort of the phase 3 products come into play.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to keep pressing on the Drupal story and maybe independent of Acquia. So with Drupal, you know, with its API first strategy, if you like, is actually at sort of the forefront of, you know, decoupled content management story. But with the rise of, you know, completely headless CMSs like Contentful and a lot of VC money going behind them, where do you see the future of Drupal? Do you see a challenge to Drupal as a monolith, for example, which has its own front end, its own head as well? Or, you know, what's your thoughts around it?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thanks. Well, first of all, I think we're in a great position today. You know, I think we started investing in headless and decoupled about 10 years ago. And we started putting it at the core of Drupal, literally in Drupal core, but also rewriting Drupal core so we can put it at the core of core, like 6 or 7 years ago. So today we have a strong leadership position in headless and decoupled, and we're being recognized for that, right? And when we see in competitive situations against Contentfuls of the world, we win a lot. We win a lot more than we lose against them. So I think that's very important to recognize. Of course, Rahul, as you mentioned, they're innovating fast, right? Like they have money, they raised money from VCs. And so I think it's important that we keep innovating too. And that's why we have several initiatives in Drupal, like core initiatives, to keep expanding and improving on our headless or decoupled capabilities. So I think the challenge that I see is not a technical challenge, because I believe we are better than a lot of these solutions today, including Contentful. Like we have better multilingual support, we have better workflow supports than a lot of these systems today. I think our weakness, frankly, sometimes on sales and marketing, for lack of a better term. I don't think we tell the story as effectively as Contentful does. I think a lot of people don't think of Drupal as really a strong contender or player in headless and decoupled. You know, it's more of a positioning marketing challenge that we have. I do think long-term, Rahul, like pure headless to me feels like it will be remain a niche. I mean, I think it's great for developers, but I think it's bad for marketers, like non-technical or less technical people that want to use drag and drop to create layouts, that want to quickly update a menu without having to go back to their developers. You know, today's headless systems really, you know, marketers don't like them because they lose so many of the things that we have in Drupal, all the way from accessibility to SEO improvements to layout builder and WYSIWYG, and there's so many things that they would lose, right? And so headless is great for developer and for certain things, but the majority of people, I think, don't want to lose these things. And so that's why Drupal's flexible approach, I think could easily win in the long run, because I think the Contentfuls of the world, they're going to have to figure out a way to deal with that. So I think they're going to grow to be a bit more like Drupal. You know, they're going to add these capabilities that we already have. And we're adding capabilities around headless and decoupled that maybe they had before us. So I do think eventually these things will collide a little bit more or come together, and there will be less dissimilar. And then ultimately what we have that they will never have is that we're open source.
Yeah.
You know, think about that. I mean, they have a lot of momentum in the market, but they're a proprietary SaaS solution, which is fine. But we all know open source is better and more powerful and more flexible. And we have a community around it. And it's better for career growth and to build your career around. So they're never going to be able to compete with some of these things that we have. And so therefore, Drupal will always have a special place in the market. If you want flexibility, don't use Contentful, because you know you're limited to what you can do because they're a proprietary SaaS product.
Yep. We're going to make a snippet out of this. A lot of agencies here, we're going to make snippets out of this, and feel free to use snippets and spread that everywhere.
But that's the marketing that we should do. And that's we don't do that effectively today, I think.
Yeah.
We're great at building software. We're not so good at telling the story.
I remember, I think it was London, DrupalCon, London, was it? Where you first mentioned this. You'd done a survey, I remember. You know, and you brought out what do marketers and salespeople say about Drupal. And I remember the, you know, 1,000, 2,000 people in the room laugh or something like that happened. And I remember you make a remark there that exactly the same thing, that we build great software, but without the software being marketed well, it means nothing really. So, you know, that was personally for me a very, very insightful, powerful thing, you know, and changed the way I look at sort of Drupal and looked at business. So thank you for that. That was, you know, I've never had a chance to tell you that, but there are moments like this in my business career where, you know, just you standing on for a keynote has sort of given a new direction to me and to my company.
Well, thank you for sharing that. It's special.
What about the challenge from low-code platforms? Do you think that has any play in the story of Drupal in the future?
Yeah, I think it's very important to us. I think about the history of Drupal. I think we have always been successful because a lot of site builders really liked using Drupal. That was key to our growth and success. The first 10 years of Drupal, like people could download Drupal, install Drupal, and then use tools like CCK and Views to do, you know, powerful things without having to write a lot of code, right? So it's kind of a low-code platform. That's the root of our success, these tools. And I think that continues to be very important to us. Today, you have a lot of low-code platforms, and I'm not sure, Rahul, if you're alluding to those, like Wix and Squarespace.
Yeah, but also, also, you know, build your apps, for example, OutSystems, and I forget the Mendix and some of those. Do you think they're going to pose a challenge?
I don't know if they're going to pose a challenge per se, but I do think we need to invest more in sort of low-code or no-code solutions for Drupal. I think it's very, very powerful. I'm not too worried about the Wixes and the Squarespaces today because they serve a different segment of the market.
That's correct.
Like at least at Acquia, we never see them in competitive situations, right? And so more in the enterprise side of the market, I think low-code, no-code is an opportunity, right, where we can learn from all of these platforms and see which elements we can, you know, add to Drupal. So,
one question here. So in Acquia, are you investing in low code, no code, which you think would come back to the Drupal community in some form?
Yeah, I mean, we are, like, for example,
Site Studio, right?
There is Site Studio as an example. But before Site Studio, we did a lot of work on Layout Builder, for example.
Correct.
today we have 2 or 3 people full-time right now on upgrading CK Editor in preparation of Drupal 10. So we're moving from CK Editor 4 to 5, I think, which is a complete rewrite. It's almost like going from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8. But CK Editor, you know, is kind of a low-code feature too, right? Where you can enable non-technical people to upload images and, you know, embed images, all these things. So, you know, we're constantly trying to make Drupal better there. We're investing heavily in automatic updates. Again, we have 2 or 3 people full-time at Acquia working on automated updates, which again is a way to shift the maintenance of Drupal from very developer-centric people that have to run Composer update, let's say, on a command line, to a more automated way that's, if you will, you know, lower code, right? So these are the areas, I think, some examples of areas where Acquia is investing. And then there's Site Studio as well, which is like a low-code, you know, page builder and component based design system for Drupal. So I think it's very, very important. And if you actually look at Acquia's investments, we're actually not often investing in enterprise features, like, because honestly, our customers, they may not care all that much about automatic updates. It's really more the low end of the market, as an example. But we still feel like very important for Drupal and the market in general. So.
Dries, we're running about 10-15 minutes late. I know you told us you were okay going a little bit longer. Are you still okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me double check. I think I can probably run go another 10 minutes if that's okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. Then we'll just sort of wrap up very quickly. Perhaps just coming to the Drupal India community, if you like. You know, just by numbers, we are the second largest community, and I know Deepan has, on multiple occasions during the camps, reminded us that we have numbers, yes, but we have very few leading contributors globally, you know, the quality of contributions, and so on and so forth. And it feels like, you know, that's one thing that drags us back. And that probably adds to the part that, you know, we probably punch much below our weight internationally. Do you have any comments, observations around that, and what you think needs to change?
Well, first of all, I've seen a tremendous change, especially since maybe the last DrupalCon in India. Like, I don't know, I feel like there was a lot of great community building in India in the last few years. And I know like yourself and Shyamala and others have been crucial to making that happen. I'm very grateful for that. I see a lot of great things happening in India. I actually think India is doing pretty well relative to contributing to Drupal. You know, I think about companies like, you know, your company, Rahul, you know, Srijan. I think about QED 42 or Open Sense Lab. And even Acquia has a few full-time contributors now in India. So, and a lot of these companies are in the top 20 or top 30 contributors, which is pretty awesome. Well, you should be proud of that, I think, that so many contribute. Now, to your point, is there more you can do? Sure, yes, we would like to see even more, but I'm quite happy already, especially the progress in the last 10 years that I've seen, where India has seen a lot of Drupal growth in my mind. And I think the way you can help, if you have your own company in India, or if you're part of a company in India, it's to encourage, I would encourage you to, you know, hire people that can contribute. And it could be either part-time or full-time, but I think full-time is the most impactful, personally.
You mentioned that at one of the DrupalCons, and a few of us have tried. At Srijan, we've had people, I know Accelerant had somebody, Hussein, I think, contributing full-time for some time, but it's not consistent, I guess, with a lot of us. I think that needs to change for a lot of the agencies, have full-time contributors on payroll who are sort of working consistently. I know you had that message for global agencies, and I guess it'll be.
Yeah. It's, you have to find the right people to do it, I think, too. Like, I think one, sometimes it can be a good marketing tool. Like, for example, I see some companies, Acquia included, so we have full-time contributors, but then we also do like webinars, for example, with them, right, as a way to try and attract customers. So we use their deep knowledge and expertise to write blog posts or to do webinars. So we can, and that's kind of part of the deal. If you join at least Acquia, like, you have to spend some of your time, I mean, most of your time you can contribute. Some of your time you have to help maybe create content or help improve content that we have, that kind of stuff. So think about it that way. Maybe that's a helpful suggestion. I don't know. So it's not just a person that sits somewhere, write code all day, but they can actually ask yourself, how can that person help me be more successful as a company?
Good, thank you. I really had a lot of questions around the commerce story and the digital assets management story around the Drupal sort of ecosystem, but I'm going to skip all that and maybe just ask you to close with some comments for the Indian Drupal community, at least the 130 people who are still there. What should they do? Inspire them a little bit, light up a little fire in their bellies.
Well, let me try. I don't know. It's hard to do, Rahul, but I think if you think about the journey of a lot of sort of top Drupal people, they all started with something small and simple. You know, like they all made their first patch or their first contribution, and that wasn't necessarily easy, you know. And so my advice is, if you haven't contributed to Drupal, you know, just find something that you think you want to help improve and make that first step. And it can be a small step, it can be improving some documentation. It can be answering a support question, you know, on Drupal.org. It could be helping with the next DrupalCamp in India. These are all very valuable contributions, and it's a great way to get involved. And then from there, if you like it, you'll see that your skills will grow, and maybe the amount of contribution you do will grow. And I think great things can come from that, you know. Like, I think a lot of people have made great careers because they started to contribute. And it's also personally very rewarding, I think, to know that you've contributed something that ends up in the hands of hundreds of thousands of sites, often very important sites, you know, sites that have an impact on the world, nonprofits, sites that help with humanitarian efforts, sites that make governance around the world better. Like, one small change can have an indirect impact on hundreds of thousands of sites, which is pretty cool, you know, if you think about it, right? I think it's very cool. It's why I do what I do. It's why I get up in the morning and continue to do what I do, because I know my efforts end up impacting hundreds of thousands of people. So, and that makes it so special. And it's also great learning. Like, I continue to learn so much, you know, from the Drupal community on a technical front, on how to manage people front, on, so it's been very, very interesting for me.
Yeah, and I think there is this element of gratitude, you know. So keep saying and keep repeating the message wherever I can. So I'm going to use the opportunity to do that now with 130 people. We've built our careers and our companies from what we've got from Drupal and you. And of course, the community who contributed to Drupal. And it's a little bit of, you know, an act of giving back, which really moves the world. So I think that element, probably, if we all could adopt a lot more, we'd probably do much better. Right. Okay, so I'm going to pause. Yeah.
I think, Dries, we just wanted to do this really quick conversation with you, and I don't think we can stop asking you questions. It's been so wonderful just chatting with you. But I'm going to just invite Dipen and Prasad, because we've also been having a lot of contributions that have been happening in the background over the last couple of years with after DIA came, and we want to just celebrate some of them along with you. So, Surabhi, can you quickly add? I'm not sure to spotlight Prasad and Dipen, and then Dipen, you can take over from there.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry, after such a superfluous and cozy conversation, I have to pull up a presentation to share on the screen, but I'll have to do it so that I don't forget. But just give me a second.
Well, while you do that, Shyamala, thank you for saying that. It just means I'll have to come back a future time, to answer more questions. So sign me up for that.
Definitely.
Right. So yeah, as many of you know that, when we started DIA, I think one of the first initiative we collectively took was to increase the contribution, increasing our share of voice in the Drupal community. And, and to that effect, we thanks Dries for, having this chat with us. And we thought it'll be a great opportunity to, thank all the contributors who've been with us on this and all the mentors as well. And I also want to say thanks to Tim Lennon for sharing the data with us to be able to do this. Anmol Goyal has been one of the top contributors to Drupal from India all time. And, thanks Anmol for your contributions. Anmol, I believe, is from Delhi. He's been in the Drupal community for over 4 years. Then Gaurav, I think he's relatively new to Drupal community and being the top contributor to Drupal from India in the last year. Spectacular, great to see a young entrant to the Drupal community doing so well on the contribution front. Gaurav has been in the community for a while, and thanks, Gaurav, for your consistent contribution to the Drupal product module ecosystem. Gaurav continues to be a top contributor from India. Ankita has been also contributing regularly to Drupal and has been among the top 3 contributors for last year. And it's great to have, Ankita with the contributors, and hope we can get more support in the mentorships and the future BIA initiatives. We were talking about contribution quantity. I think Rahul touched on it, and I think one of the objectives which he was alluding to was also how do we become leads of initiatives or contribute to initiatives in a meaningful and in a deep way. So just to recognize that, Mohit has been having quite a bit of impact on the Bug Smash community initiative, being a deep contributor there. I wanted to thank Mohit for showing us the way, and I hope more of us will enter initiatives and have that deep work done in the contributions. Then obviously with Drupal, a lot of gets done by unsung heroes and a lot of contribution that is not code. I wanted to thank Surabhi for always being there to organize, sprints, events, and to always be there to shepherd, to get people together. And thanks, Surabhi, for your contributions, and Shyamala for being such a rock solid support for DIA in organizing anything and everything that we do. Finally, wanted to thank mentors. I think Drupal is one of those unique communities which always tries to bring young talent and young contributors to the Drupal project. And this does not happen, automatically. There's a lot of mentorship needed, and we wanted to thank Jaydeep, Shimpi, Vaibhav, Malabya, and Sushil for the gracious mentorship to all our code sprints. They've been very supportive, very helpful with, helpful for the first-time contributors. And, we ran the series of code sprints in 2020, and, they were always available. And and very gracious with their time. Thanks, everyone. And this year, one of the initiatives that we have taken as part of the DIA is to bring more talent to Drupal through apprenticeship, internships, training, and whatever we can do to support. In fact, we are revisiting our earlier program, which we launched during DrupalCon Asia 2016 in a different avatar. Prasad, you want to talk about it a little bit?
The Drupal Campus Ambassador program, that's just a newer version of the earlier one, but now all the campuses are also online. So we just redesigned the program and launched a kind of pilot to popularize Drupal amongst the college kids, the last year college students, and to train them on Drupal. And we designed a 3 months kind of training program, but it's more like a learning program. So we just guide them to learn Drupal and get them to do a project in Drupal. And probably after successful completion, we'll give them internship opportunities within Drupal organizations in India. But these 4 amazing Drupalers, Astha, Harpreet, Komal, and Nyan Gautam, they have been like designing and working on this program for almost last year. We launched it. We had to delay it a couple of times because of COVID, but consistently these guys have been contributing to it and designing the entire program, the entrance test and the curriculum, and even guiding the students without losing any patience. So amazing work by all the 4.
Isn't it lovely to see 3 women out of the 4
absolutely
DCAP contributors?
And yes, like you will be doing more future cohorts on DCAP. We would love to seek your mentorship. And it's, I think the best time is like if you're like 1 to 2 years of experience, that actually is a great, sort of, if you want to mentor your, like give your time for mentorship, that'll be a great help to further this program. So, and finally, thanks to Tim for helping us with the data and helping with this list. And thank you, everyone. And thanks all the contributors, mentors. And
before we drop off, I don't know if we have more, but I think, Surabhi, if you could unspotify a few of us useless people and get all the contributors Spotified and let them take a Zoom fee with Dries.
Well, it's still a bit interesting. I'm not sure how we do this in Zoom, but sounds like you have a plan.
Thank you, Dries, for being there with us.
Well,
and
of course.
This is actually a series of programs. We are going to have an entire day on Saturday where we're meeting at different locations. And we're pretty excited that we'll also have, as part of that one-day event, a lot of code contributions. We'll continue to reach out to you to join us for more of sessions like this. And thank you once again for joining us, Dries.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was a lot of fun, and I'm happy to come back in the future. Just you know where to find me. Especially these Q&As they're easy to do because they're all good questions, and I actually enjoy doing them. So
we're going to make it tougher. We're going to make it tougher and give you more homework next time.
We keep raising the bar.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Very good. Well, thank you for the opportunity, and I hope. Thanks for organizing. Thanks for inviting me. It was really great to see so many people and so many contributors, and to learn a little bit more about what's going on, with Drupal in India as well. So thank you to all of the contributors that were highlighted. It's really nice. And I look forward to meeting again in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
have a good year ahead. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Namaste, everyone.
See you guys on 12th for our event.
Yes. Yeah. See you all.
Hey, Deepen, do you want to actually put up a slide for everybody here and just like a reminder of
and
what the
share
program
a
is
little
about?
bit about, yeah.
I mean, last minute thought, but.
Yeah, I don't have a slide. If anyone has, can
or Surabhi,
Sharmila, if you have a schedule,
why don't you just share the schedule and how it looks like? I don't know if we have the short list of all the lectures already or no.
Yeah, we have it on the
Oh,
website.
excellent. Then let's actually schedule,
Yeah.
share it with.
Where are you,
before we
Surabhi?
drop off.
Can you spotlight yourself? I can't find you. I'm searching.
Guys,
I'll
just
do
stay
that.
on for another 2 or 3 minutes. Let us just give you a hook into how the day is going to look, and please do join on time and all of that. And over to you, Sharmila, Surbhi.
Okay, so the locations are already shared, but if you still need to know or need the exact address, I'll be sharing the invite tomorrow along with all the addresses and the Zoom details. And also I will be sharing the regional box, the numbers of the people whom you can contact if you have any questions reaching the venue. Other than that, we have a schedule ready here. We will be starting around 9:30, 9:45 with a short intro, and we will have 4 sessions followed by that intro. After that, we'll have some part for networking, and then we'll follow it with a code sprint. We will keep a very short session for the new beginners or new joiners to the contributions, and we'll keep it in a separate breakout room. So it can go on even if there are more people joining in later in the day. And that's the very short schedule. Nothing complicated as such. Any questions?
And then maybe the companies can also either sponsor or at least go out together with, maybe for an after party or something, maybe self-funded. But it'd be lovely to actually do that following the code sprint.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah, that typically gets done automatically.
Automatically. All right. Cool.
That's the last thing you need to plan, actually. It just happens without planning.
Right then, Shyamala, do you want to close? Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for joining.
Everybody, bye.
Thanks,
See you.
everyone.
Bye.
Have a
Bye.
lovely week.
See you on 12.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.